My guest, who is Emmanuel Okoliko, will be joining me after the break. To stay, we'll be right back. Thank you for still staying with us. You are still watching Business Daily, coming to you live on TrustTV. And just before the break, I did introduce the discourse for today's edition of the program. And we are focusing on the impact of the frequent national grid collapse and how this is impacting, industrial output and businesses right here in Nigeria. According to the APGC, that is the Association of Power Generating Companies, there has been about 162 grid collapses since the year 2013. Unfortunate numbers there being released by the association. But I have my guest right here with me. He's joining me virtually, and hopefully he will help us, break down this discourse, the topic for today on the program. I'm joined by Emmanuel Okoliko, who is a Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you for joining us on Business Daily this morning.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Good to have you join us on the program today. But let's hear from you. When you hear numbers like this, 162 grid collapses, recorded since the year 2013, what crosses your mind? Yes,
it's only a reactivation of what we already know, because it's an experience we are passing through. So if I am a Nigerian living in Nigeria, such information, such figures, such numbers will not sound scandalous to me. It will not sound strange to me, because we're experiencing it. Like I always emphasize on air, whenever I have opportunity to bear my mind or make contribution to ongoing conversations like this as it affects national life, my emphasis has been that there are metrics of development, there are metrics of progress, there are metrics of implementation of policies and very sound and logical programs that were rolled out ab initio. The metrics are simple. It is written on the faces of the Nigerian who is living in Nigeria. The ability for the Nigerian to go to touch his switch and then he sees light. The ability to go to buy fuel and then he gets fuel with ease and at an affordable price, able to move himself from point A to point B with ease. All these are the real metrics of measuring development, of measuring success, of measuring progress. So if we are experiencing this failure, this breakdown, the last one was so touching. I had my personal experience, which I'm not willing to share here because I discuss national issues, not my personal issues. But I had a very terrible nasty experience because of the breakdown at that time. It affected a lot of things. So it is not strange to the ears to hear that you have such figures being rolled out by people who are actually involved in the process. This association is an association of people who are involved in generation. So they are only coming to confirm, it may even be more than that, coming to confirm the experience we're already having. But it's quite alarming, it's embarrassing, it's disgusting and disenchanting. And it shows that we are where we have always been, we are where we are. And so it means that as a nation and as a people, we are not ready yet, we are not set yet, we are not prepared yet to move ourselves from where we are to where we are going. If you can record, there's a gap between giving us the entire figure of 162, for instance, breakdowns recorded so far. There's a gap between that and also telling you the frequency of occurrence. For instance, when you witness a scenario where in just 1 week, you witness 2 or 3 breakdowns on the national grid, where we know that this supply, this distribution, this provision of this basic public good by government is tied to the national grid to a large extent. The regions are not really involved. Whatever we have is just a shadow of what it's supposed to be. So it is more of the national grid, so it is controlled at the center. If it keeps breaking down like this, what does it spell? What does it tell us? What does it? What it's a testament to the fact that somebody who is supposed to be doing something is not doing what is expected. Is not living by the mandate. Something somewhere is not working. The system somewhere is not working. When we say power sector, for instance, it is a system. One leads to the other. We had the experience of unburdening, deregulation, privatization, and I'm sure it is from that point, 2013, for instance, till now, that these statistics are being gathered and then they are turning them out to us. We we have distribution, we have generation.
We have been speaking with Emmanuel Okoliko, who is a public affairs analyst, and he has been speaking to, the recent session by the APGC, that is the Association of Power Generating Companies, that have said that about 162 power grid collapses have been recorded since the year 2013. And interestingly, 2013 was the year where we witnessed the privatization of the power sector here in Nigeria. And, that brings up a lot more, conversation around what we have been able to gain so far regarding, privatization. But while we try to get Emmanuel Okoliko back with us, I will just, go back. Oh, I believe he is back with us at the moment.
Yes, I'm back now.
I believe you. Yes, you are back with us on the program. But I will, before we move on to the impact of this frequent power grid collapses on businesses, I would like for us to go down memory lane to 2013, because these numbers have been counted since that year, since we saw the privatization of the power sector. I mean, in 2013 that happened, and this was supposed to achieve some meaningful improvement in Nigeria's power sector. Would you say that the privatization has fallen short of what was expected from it? And what gaps would you say? Because you did make a very salient point. You said that it means that someone is not doing something. It means that some actions are not being taken, and that goes to show that there is a gap. So from your end, what gaps would you say currently does exist?
There are lots of gaps, and the gaps are obvious. For instance, we have the promises that informed the privatization and the regulation were to enhance quality.
Again,
quality of service delivery, even efficiency, was to enhance quality service delivery. Today, we do not have power. We have this breakdown, instant breakdowns taking place. That means someone is not doing something, and I will tie it to proper deregulation, proper privatization. That is a major gap. That's a serious gap. If we want to do serious privatization, we want to embark on serious privatization, then we must be serious to ensure that, first and foremost, the right pegs are kept in the right holes. That's the first point of call. Where the questions are, where the right persons put in the right places. Some of the persons who claim to have acquired the facilities and the structures at different levels of generation, at different levels of transmission, what is their level of financial strength? Do they have the capacity to deliver the goods? Some of them came on the grounds of politics. So one of the gaps is the fact that someone somewhere decided to play politics with power, knowing that power is so central, power is so sensitive to national life, power is central to commercial activities, power is central to business operations in Nigeria. So if you know the essence, the significance, the relevance of the power sector, and we decide to bring in the private sector with the aim of privatizing, deregulating, and then we do it, first of all, with playing the game of politics. We do it again by involving persons that can pay the price, in quote, but not those who have actually the capacity, given based on merit, have the capacity to deliver. Because if they had the capacity, as a matter of fact, we would have seen it now by the testimonies that we have today. We would have seen it now by a reduction in those breakdowns. We would have seen it now by mitigating the consequences of whatever these breakdowns could come up with. Then, if you also go further, you will see that quality, efficiency is not being delivered to the table. Again, probably because government is still largely involved. And when government is largely involved, your privatization may not meet the expectations of the people. If we want efficiency, if we want to get the most with the resources available at a particular point in time, then we must allow the market forces play their role. How would the market forces play their role when government is involved in the process of billing, the billing process, the time for billing, for instance, government is largely involved. And when you are involved, that means it is not the actual market price that you are giving to the people. And if you're not giving the actual market price, what that means is that there must be subsidy. I haven't seen any nation that operates, even in the Western Europe, among developed countries, subsidy exists in one sector or the other. As we speak now, government's hands are almost going off virtually everything. BMS, fuel, power, FX, everywhere. And these are sensitive sectors that touch the people. So when you shift subsidy from somewhere, subsidy should move to other sectors that are very, very sensitive to the national life. So looking at how sacrosanct it is, we shouldn't have government presence so involved. Let's have full-fledged privatization or deregulation, or if we must subsidize, we must be sincere with our subsidy programs. That is, if you're able to build the people with the actual price, actual landing cost of all the process to delivering the good to the man in his house who touches the switch and he gets light, the businessman who touches the switch and he gets light, gets power, so that his business can move on, so that SMEs can boom and blossom. If that must happen, then government must, as a
we seem to have lost Emmanuel Okoliko again. While we try to, sort out the technical challenges there, we are speaking to, the frequent grid collapses that have been witnessed more in recent times. I believe we did see about 2 collapses being recorded in the past week. But the APGC, that is the Association of Power Generating Companies, has come out to say that 162 grid collapses have been recorded since the year 2013. And the question now is, how are businesses, how is the business climate in Nigeria grappling with concerns such as this? On one hand, we of course have, businesses currently, installing their own mini grids in their own business vicinities and, meeting their power demands, away from the national grid, and some others, having to run their generators even more frequently recently. And that has been a major challenge, considering the current price of fuel across the nation, currently going for over 1,000 naira. In some states, it is even going for 1,200 naira, depending on location. So the concerns are quite numerous at this point. But the focus of the conversation is how businesses are coping, and how to ensure that businesses are able to hedge against concerns such as grid collapses. And while we try to have Emmanuel Okoliko back with us on the program, I'll just point out that he did speak quite enormously to the privatization that we did witness in the year 2013 in the power sector here in Nigeria, even though he did point out that there are still some gaps that does exist, and challenges as to how we can bridge those gaps that are being experienced in Nigeria's power sector. But let's go now on a quick break. When we return, the conversation will continue to stay. still watching Business Daily, coming to you live on Trust TV. And we started a conversation before the break where we are looking at the incessant or increased number of, grid collapses and power challenges here in Nigeria and how that is impacting businesses and industrial output as a whole. And I still have my guest here with me. He is a public affairs analyst in the person of Emmanuel Okoliko. Thank you again, Mr. Okoliko, for coming on the program today. I will want for you to now speak regarding, the business space in Nigeria. Already, it's not easy, looking at the ease of business doing index globally. Nigeria, places quite low on that ranking. And that goes to show how not so favorable the business climate here in Nigeria is. And then adding to concerns around power, which unfortunately has been, in the picture for a long time, but even more recently. How would you, assess the current business climate in Nigeria and how, business people are grappling with challenges across the power sector? I'm not sure if you can hear me, Mr. Emmanuel. Can you hear me? We seem to...
You are asking about the link between the power sector.
Yes, the link between the power sector and the business climate here in Nigeria. Oh, we seem to have lost Emmanuel Okoliko again. But while we try to have him, rejoin us on the program, I will just point out that the conversation has been on the Nigeria's power sector and how, it's the increase, number of grid collapses is impacting, businesses here in Nigeria. And the APGC, that is the Association of Power Generating Companies, recently disclosed that Nigeria has recorded 162 grid collapses since 2013, and there has been, a lot of feedback from Nigerians regarding that statement. We did, ask Nigerians in social media what their thoughts were, and we have so far received, or we did so far, receive some very interesting responses. Some are saying, that these concerns can be changed, through the policy direction. But I believe Emmanuel Okoliko is back with us on the program. Can you hear me, Mr. Okoliko?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Can you please share your thoughts on how these, power grid collapses that we did speak about initially, is affecting the business climate in Nigeria? A lot, already that business people, micro, small and medium enterprises are dealing with and having, challenges such as the power sector challenge, which is not new, but seems as though, the grid collapse has been more frequent recently. What will your thoughts be on that?
It's alarming. It's alarming. It's not good for the business environment. The entire globe is moving at a very fast pace right now. Competition is dropping. How do you compete? You will agree with me that the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, are actually the driving forces of the national economic life, of the national commercial life. The major commercial activities are being driven by these SMEs. The SMEs should be given enabling environment to operate. And critical of this is the power sector. This insistent breakdown will have impact and effect. Impact in terms of immediate repercussion or immediate outcomes, and effect in terms of when the impact refuses to disappear, it becomes an effect. Now, as you struggle to come out of one breakdown, another breakdown happens. And as you struggle, imagine having breakdown of national grid twice in just 1 week. What that means is that it's going to translate directly to increased operational costs for doing business by these people, because they are going to rely now on alternative sources which are not sustainable. Because the question is, how sustainable are these alternative sources? like relying on generators. This economy, this situation we are now, we have come to a stage where virtually everything is substandard now, and at a very high cost. The cost of obtaining a generator is so high, the cost of maintaining the same generator is so high, and the quality of the generator you have acquired is also in question. So now you are going to be spending a lot to be able to rely on generators to be able to power your business. And as you power your business, what will happen? You are going to transmit or translate this cost to the consumers, you and I. And so operational costs will rise, costs of assessing basic needs that are products of these SMEs, services and goods provided by the SMEs will rise. Now, is this not going to discourage local investment, investors locally, SMEs, people, entrepreneurs who have interest, who are willing, but do not have the capacity, have the financial strength to be able to grapple with the realities of getting alternative power source, which is sacrosanct, which is central to your operation, to the operation of businesses. And one leads to the other, another leads to the other. The connection goes round. Hence, we'll be left in the continuous rigmarole as innovation is stifled, as local investors, entrepreneurs cannot even make progress, as productivity is hampered because the SMEs now can no longer produce. And if they will produce, they produce below expected capacity. They will not be able to deal with, and if they cannot deal with the rising demand in the market, what that means is that prices will rise because cost of production will actually move the same direction with price and all of that. So these things will move at the same level. Then are we going to talk about foreign investments? These are the things that, these are the promises that inform privatization, the regulation. That is why I am crying for proper regulation.
Mr. Okoliko, you have painted a picture that is quite really not attractive, looking at the business environment here in Nigeria. But I will like for you to speak regarding, alternative sources of energy at this point. There is the energy transition plan, which we have up until like 2060 to, embrace more sustainable energy sources. And whilst we went through our social media comments today, we saw a lot of, fingers pointing in that direction: solar energy, hydro energy, wind energy, and the likes. How would you gauge the government's effort, towards transition, and how would you gauge the acceptance of these other energy sources by Nigerians so far?
Yes, Nigerians are making efforts at taking advantage of alternative sources. But you will agree with me that leadership is key. Leadership, and when we say leadership is key, we are referring to government involvement, government sincerity, government. So Nigerians are not interested in programs and policies that are put on paper. What we want to hear, what we want to see is the noise about the hula baloo, about the noise here and there about alternative sources, diversification, and all of that has been there from time. Is rooted in antiquity. We are tired of hearing, sick and tired of hearing these alternative sources and then programs and policies and models that are so beautiful and fine for the ears to listen to. But like Nigerians are already pointing out, Nigerians are willing and ready to grab these alternative sources. But how sustainable, how available, how accessible are these plans of government? That's the issue. That's the major issue. So it's not about being willing to embrace these alternative sources, but government must decisively and deliberately and intentionally too, bearing in mind the yearnings of the people they are there to serve. Leadership is there to serve, to integrate renewable energy sources, to integrate solar energy, wind sources, and all of that. But this wind, water, solar, as source of government must be deliberately and sincerely involved in providing subsidies in this area. So if subsidies are not there, and you are going to diversify, for instance, if people like we borrow from petroleum, look at the kind of regulation of privatization we had with telecommunications. Since it's full, the market forces could play their role there. But if government must be involved, as you did, my emphasis has been that when government removes its hand from a particular sector that is so sensitive, push whatever savings you have there to other sectors that are also very central and significant to the national life, like power generation. And so when we discuss diversification, when we discuss solar, when we discuss wind, it is not the people providing virtually everything for themselves. It's not about the people going to get solar for themselves. When you see street lights, it is provided by individuals for their streets. When you see whatever, you see businesses trying to get solar lights into their respective small business, small shops and all of that. It is provided by them at very exorbitant rates.
Well, allow me to interject at this point, Mr. Emmanuel Okoliko, but your point have been, well explained. Thank you very much for the insights that you have shared with us on today's edition of the program. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Okoliko, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that is the point where we say our goodbyes on today's edition of Business Daily. We'll keep the conversation going across all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and of course on X. And we will be there to reply to your comments, thoughts, and opinions. My name is Chiamaka Enendu. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.